Lute and Emily, well, they weren't on the best terms. After all, they didn't really like each other. Emily liked Lute and respected her. But in this alternate timeline, Emily would know about the exorcism and would actually talk to Lute a lot. She didn't like it, but she kept her mouth shut, because for the greater good. Emily was a bit of a different character here, as Lute was more or less the same, except she was a little bit more open into girls, obviously. As then Lute came back, she was hurt, as Emily would walk up to her and say, "Here, you could use a quick healing." As Emily would then cast her magic, as she would touch Lute in the face. As Lute's wound slowly went away, she felt way better, as she was officially healed. As Lute could stand up and move now. Her arms and legs were a bit injured, but it wasn't too bad. Lute would say, I would heal myself. Yeah, angels do heal faster, but I had to make sure. Lute would say, "Thank you." Emily would say, "You're welcome. Be careful out there." Lute would say, "All right." As this would pique Lute's interest. She wasn't used to people caring about her like that. As Emily would, she would kind of like Lute. Lute was a very interesting character for her. Lute represented something for her. Lute was this brooding woman that fought. She was so tough. She was so brutal, but at the same time, she had a soft spot. And Emily would heal Lute whenever she got injured. One day, Lute would say, "Do you want to hang out sometime?" Emily would say, "Sure." As then one day, they went to get some coffee. Not really much, but hey, you gotta start somewhere. So as they went out to eat and drink some coffee, Lute would say, "So Emily, how are you? You've been very nice to me. Is there a reason for that?" Emily would say, "I'm nice to everyone." "Yeah, but you always heal me first and talk to me the most." Emily would be like, "I guess I just like you." Lute would say, "Yeah? Yeah." As they had both stared at each other for a while, as they would, not really know what to say, until Lute said, "You wanna get out of here?" Emily would say, "I'd like that," as they both walked out. As they were both walking away, Lute would look at Emily and say, "Hey, as then she would just kiss her and run off. As Emily blushed, she couldn't believe it. This felt nice. It felt good. As then she simply smiled. Lute and Emily would disagree on the exorcism, but they wouldn't fight over it. They knew each other's opinions and knew they couldn't change their minds, so all they could do was support each other. Until one day, Vaggie and Charlie would both go to the meeting. As Charlie and Vaggie were walking away, suddenly Adam wouldn't show up. As Vaggie was alone in a room, in this timeline, Emily and Lute would both show up. As Vaggie would say, "What do you two want?" As Lute would say, "Me and her disagree on something. I want to get rid of the exorcist," Emily said. As Lute said, "I want to continue it. But since we're partners, sadly we have to work together." Vaggie would say, "Partners, you mean as in..." As they both looked at each other, as they were keeping a secret, Emily would say, "No, of course not. You silly." Vaggie would say, "You're dating, aren't you?" As Lute would say, "Yes. No, that's none of your business." As Vaggie would say, "Listen, I don't care, alright? The fact that you have to hide it here means maybe you should come down to our side. But say what you're gonna say." Lute would say, "Listen, I knew I threw you down and abandoned you, but if you just try to convince her that this hotel is not a good idea." Vaggie would say, "I don't want to hear any of this. You two coming together was a bad idea. I realize you two are together now, and I can tell Vaggie would say, "Oh my god. That's what you wanted, didn't you?" Lute would say, "I don't know what you're talking about. You wanted me to find out, so I go out and tell everyone. So then you can blame it on me making up stories. Or maybe you can come out that way, because you're too scared to come out yourselves. Do it yourselves, and stop leaping me into your plans." As Emily and Lute would just leave, as they looked at each other and sighed. As then they just started to laugh and kiss as they held hands. As they walked out, even though that didn't go as planned, they wanted Vaggie to get angry and to tell on them so they wouldn't have to come out themselves. And if, obviously, a lot of people wouldn't believe it, so they can fight the allegations straight up. Or just accept it. They wanted to see everyone's reaction if they were that way, to see if they could actually, confirm it. But who cares what other people think? as the meeting would go like in canon, but Vaggie would never be exposed, as then her and Charlie would go back to the Has-Been Hotel. Emily and Lute would continue to hide their relationship, but Emily was getting scared about Lute. After all, Lute was bold, Lute was brave, but the soldiers down there weren't going to go easy on her. And while Sinners even damaged an angel once before, could she really survive all this? Lute would... As Emily would invite Lute to speak with her, as Lute and Emily would start to talk together, Lute and Emily would both look at each other, as Emily would say, do you have to really go down there? Lute would say, how can you say that? It's the biggest battle. You always... I know, but I don't know if you can make it. Say, you don't believe in me after everything we've been through, after how much I had to hide. Emily would start to cry and say, I don't want to lose you. Okay? I have a bad feeling about this. I don't know. I know you're strong, but I don't want to lose you. As Lute would hug her and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have yelled at you. I know you care about me. As then Lute and Emily would both look at each other, and Lute would say, if I don't come back, I want to do something. As she kissed Emily, as Emily kissed her back, as they started to rub against each other. As Lute would take Emily to her bed. As they would have some fun, they would wake up the next morning. Emily would say, that was amazing. Lute would say, yeah, I'm glad I was able to have a night of fun before we go. As then Lute got up and went off to hell. As Emily would lay in bed all day and think about Lute, she would think about how much she loved her, how much she didn't want her to go, how much she didn't want her to perish, how much she could get hurt. All these thoughts kept building and building and building as she would try to ignore them, as she would try to do something else, but she couldn't. All she could do was wait and simply hope that she was not hurt. Eventually, though, Lute would come back injured, her arm missing, as Emily would cry and hug her. I love you, she said, as Lute would say, I love you too. And I don't care who knows it. I've been thinking, and this exorcism thing, it isn't for me. As Emily was tired of heaven, she was tired of the bureaucracy, she was tired of not being able to make a change. She was tired of everything she was doing getting set back over and over and over again. And Lute, she was tired of the destruction. She was tired of the chaos she caused, as she decided to fall back. As Lute and Emily would steal some disguises, as then they would go to hell. As those who disguised as sinners, they would get a small apartment. As they would get part-time jobs, so no one really would notice them. As they had enough money to basically live comfortably for decades, they still wanted little jobs here and there so no one gets suspicious. However, as the days passed, as things continued, as things would start to smooth out, as they would start to enjoy their life, until someone they knew knocked on the door. It was Vaggie. Lute and Emily would both let Vaggie in, nervous about what happened. As they both looked at her, Lute would say, are you gonna, as then Vaggie would say, sorry about your arm. I let you survive because, well, I knew Emily needed you and she had a kind heart. I can tell you changed a lot. And, well, I have too. Lute would say, why are you really here? I'm here because you have a home in the hotel if you need it. And no hard feelings. As Lute would shake Vaggie's hand, as then Vaggie left. As Lute would say, I can't believe the nerve of her. Emily would say, yeah, but she means well. I think that's a sign that we're meant to be, as they would smile and cuddle. As then we cut to Vaggie and Charlie, as that's how the couples went. And Emily gave up their old lives. They would live together, happily. As Lute gave up being an exorcist, gave up being a warrior, Emily gave up her dream of redeeming people, her dream of helping Charlie, her dream of making heaven better, all to be with her love, and it was worth it, as they gave up everything just to be together, just to live in hell. Because heaven is not heaven without the love of your life there. And that's going to leave things on. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, share with all your friends. I really enjoyed making this video. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Yeah, I am really tired. It's about 5 a.m. right now. Usually I get things done way earlier, but I may have tried out a new game I really liked and lost track of time. Usually I lose track of time because I'm doing something important, but this time I'll admit it. I messed up. Yep. I was even tempted halfway through this video just not to post tomorrow, but I'm like, I do daily uploads. I can do this. Yeah. Gotta sleep in a little bit, though. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe a few hours extra. Luckily, I live right next to where I work, so I can just easily walk there. So it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, it definitely hinders my plans a bit, not gonna lie. But, you know, I did it to myself. It's not your fault. It's not YouTube's fault. It's not, you know, anything like that. It's just, yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed this. By the time you're watching this, I'm probably fast asleep. So if you would like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends, and hit that thanks button if you want to, I would greatly appreciate that. So yeah, I've thought about this ship for a while, but I've never really done it. You guys usually only watch ships if Charlie's involved, except for like the first ship I did. Then after that, nothing ever really came of anything else. Likewise, but yeah, I decided to try out. Will this video do well? Well, it's up to you. It's up to you guys to share it. It's up to you guys to like. It's up to you guys to make sure this video does well. If you guys want ships, because, you know, I really enjoy them. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this, and if you don't think anyone loves you, you're wrong, because I love you. Mwah. You all mean the world to me. Peace out.